There's a kind of tiredness that sleep just doesn't fix. It's this heaviness that keeps building silently, even when you try to convince yourself that you're okay. I've been feeling this a lot lately. Small things have just been hitting harder and bigger. Not because I'm weak and not because I'm broken, but because something inside of me deep down is asking to be seen. I'm not here to teach or preach. I'm just here to share what's been rising to the surface for me in my own life. And maybe in hearing some parts of it, you'll hear parts of your own story too. Healing doesn't erase the past, but it does teach us how to live with it differently. But some days, the past still comes knocking at your door, triggered by some irrelevant comment, the tone of someone's voice, or a situation that feels bigger than it actually should. You're not crazy for reacting stronger to small things. It's not really about the small things. It's about every moment before that didn't get the chance to be processed. Triggers are just messengers for us. They are nothing to be ashamed about. They're just simple reminders of where love is still needed inside of you. And when life bumps into those old bruises, your whole body remembers, even when your mind tries to rationalize it away. It's not weakness to feel it. It's strength to stay and to listen. This past week, I actually had what to some people might seem like a moment of weakness. But from how I see it, I saw my boundaries being overstepped consistently, and I saw myself not being considered at all in my workplace, while the constant demand for my support was needed. So I left. And no, I didn't quit, but I did leave work that day. I walked out and was ready, y'all will have to just figure it out on your own. And the reason that it was like that was, it was one of those days where it was like every little thing was triggering me. And the reason that every little thing was triggering me was because I was putting myself on the back burner and putting the needs of others before me. And then guess what happened? I'm pretty good at staying calm on the outside, but inside it reopened something very tender. I still have wounds that I'm working with, healing and processing, that is tied to physical aggression. And in those moments when students get physical aggressive with me and I'm supposed to just take because it's my job to keep the students safe from themselves and those around them, I still have PTSD that my body remembers, even when my mind is telling myself that this isn't about me. And for some people, it might just be they're kids, they're not really hurting you. But there's just something about allowing someone or not being able to do anything about someone physically putting their hands on you and intentionally trying to hurt you, whether it hurts or not. I work with elementary school kids. I'm 5'2", and some of my students very much are getting up there in height with me, so it becomes uncomfortable for both them and myself. And at the end of the day, I would rather just not be in that situation. However, unfortunately, some students choose to make that choice regardless. And it is my job to de-escalate the situation. But de-escalating the situation doesn't mean I have to be a punching bag. So yeah, after that and several other events that followed later on in the day that I'll tell you about further along in this video, I had to leave. Not because I was giving up or quitting, but because I was giving in to a part of me that needed protection, the part of me that deserved to be heard. You see, what I'm learning is when something is hurting so deeply, you don't shame yourself for not being over it. You honor it. You honor those feelings. You sit with those feelings and those wounds and you say, of course this hurts, because I'm human. Burnout doesn't announce itself. Sometimes it shows up as losing patience with things that used to come so easily and naturally for you. It's when a small inconvenience spirals into hopelessness. It's when a tiny request feels like the heaviest burden. Your emotional bandwidth shrinks, not because you're lazy, but because your soul is so tired of carrying silent battles. We don't just burn out from work. We also burn out from hiding our needs, from smiling through the pain, and from showing up when we're barely stitched together ourselves. When everything feels overwhelming, it's not a sign that you're failing. It's a sign that you've been running on empty for far too long. And sometimes the most revolutionary thing that you can do is just admit that you're not okay. And that's exactly what I did. I said, I'm not okay. Y'all got it. So like I said, some other things happened that day at work that just caused me to feel too overwhelmed to be able to stay. And one of those things was finding out that my gas was scheduled to be disconnected. Like, I was already overwhelmed by the demands of the job, going from a physically aggressive student who is throwing chairs across the room at you, throwing objects, to going to another student on the playground who's throwing dirt in your eyes and in your hair, then to receiving a text message saying that one of your utilities was scheduled to be disconnected. Because if you happen to watch any of my videos from the following or the past month or so, you know I've been dealing with some financial struggles. I've emptied my savings account while trying to stay afloat and while still trying to have some sort of peace. And still, sometimes it feels like I'm drowning. I won't lie, I had a full-on panic attack at work that day. I kept trying to communicate that I needed a moment. At my workplace, we use walkies to, communicate with admin. And I'm one of the people, even though I'm not admin, to have a walkie-talkie. And I am probably called the most on the walkies, aside from admin and the principals and maybe the janitors. I am called the most for support in classrooms regarding specific students. Again, I tried to communicate repetitively that I need a moment, but they didn't hear me. Or maybe they didn't care to listen deeply enough to understand what I was saying. In that moment, the job's expectations to be everything for everyone except for myself became louder than any encouragement they could ever give me to stay there. I'm also still learning this too, but when your body tells you, I can't do this today, it's not weakness. Think of it more as wisdom. It's the version of you that refuses to abandon yourself one more time. Healing changes your taste for chaos, and it changes what you're willing to tolerate, even if you're used to it being your norm. Growth can feel brutal because it forces you to confront the spaces that you once had to shrink yourself in order to survive. You stop saying yes just to avoid guilt, and you stop over-explaining just to be heard. You stop abandoning yourself to maintain false peace. But all this unlearning, it's messy and it's tender. It costs the version of you that made silence and sacrifice a personality trait. Becoming new means letting go of old layers, even if people liked you better when you stayed small. That day at work, walking out wasn't about just one incident. It was about every time I taught myself to stay and to be nice, to keep proving my worth, even when my soul was screaming, leave! Now, I'm not proud of the panic attack at all. I was pretty embarrassed about it, actually. And I did come home and beat myself up about it a little bit, even though I shouldn't have. But I am proud that this time I listened to myself. I listened to what my body was telling me. I didn't stay to prove anything to anyone, except for the younger me who deserved better. Healing means loving yourself enough to be able to leave spaces that cannot hold your growth, even if that's scary, and even if it's lonely, and even if it breaks your patterns wide open. So if the smallest things are bothering you and feeling so much heavier lately, it's not because you're broken. It's because you're healing wounds you once had to hide. It's because you're carrying exhaustion you didn't create. It's because you're outgrowing places and spaces you used to think that you would never be able to live without. You're not too sensitive, you're just becoming. And you're finally starting to listen to the parts of yourself the world taught you to ignore. If you're in your own growing season, go ahead and leave a chat bubble down below in the comments. I'm always rooting for your small, quiet, imperfect victories. If you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you for spending some time with me today. As always, I'm sending you the greatest love, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.